Christmas edition of This Week in Pro Football. Sal Paolantonio joins us to talk Eagles Commanders, the Cowboys coming in, and Saquon's pursuit of a 40-year-old NFL record. Mike Sando from The Athletic joins us to talk the Vikings, the Lions, and that NFC West. CJ Sullivan has your picks and props for week number 17, and Bill Reinhard wraps you up a fantasy title. That's all right now on a big Christmas edition of This Week in Pro Football.
It's time for This Week in Pro Football, a deep dive into the key issues and marquee matchups in the National Football League. For the next 60 minutes, we invite you to sit back or lean in with host Pat Callahan as we preview the week's Eagles matchup, big games, breaking stories, and all news NFL. It's This Week in Pro Football, right now on JAKIB Media Sports.
Hello, everybody. Pat Callahan joining you for a Week 17 edition of This Week in Pro Football, a special edition of This Week in Pro Football here, Christmas week, coming to you a little bit earlier than usual. But we've got a lot to talk about here after a big Week 16 and all kinds of TV coming up here Christmas week. 2 games on Christmas Day, game Thursday, 3 games on Saturday, and then a very light Sunday schedule heading into the final week of the season in 2 weeks' time. So a lot to talk about here. I've got a star-studded cast. Of course, the great Sal Paolantonio will join us in just a minute. Mike Sando from The Athletic. We'll talk some football from the Midwest and the West. And, of course, CJ Sullivan will join us, sitting in for Sean Green this week. And then Bill Reinhard will talk some fantasy football at the bottom of the hour. Today's the 52-year anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. Pittsburgh Steelers winning over the Oakland Raiders. How about a quick trivia question for those of you kind enough to be texting here on the live stream? Who scored the Raiders' only touchdown of that game? Who scored the Raiders' only touchdown of that game? Let's see if anybody can pop up with that answer. All right. So it is a big week. The Eagles coming off a loss, and I know it's always a big thing. Break out the crepe and hang it up on the wall when the Eagles lose a game. But I think we could all calm down a little bit. This gentleman I'd like to bring on right away here because I have a lot to talk to him about. That would be, of course, the host of the NFL Matchup Show and the NFL, the national correspondent for ESPN, and that would be Sal Paolantonio. Sal, how you doing?
Merry Christmas, Pat. I like the Christmas sweater. I like the Christmas mood. And everybody in the Delaware Valley, Eagles fans everywhere, should be in a Christmas mood because when you look at it, Pat, this team is 2 drop passes late in the fourth quarter away from being 14-1. Yep. The same as the Kansas City Chiefs. So Devontae Smith catches that ball last night in Landover, Maryland. Saquon Barkley patches the ball in South Philly against the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football. This team is 14-1.
Right.
So when we can dissect what happened yesterday, there were important lessons. But the most important thing is the status, prognosis, and future of the franchise quarterback.
Okay, fair enough. Let's start, though, with what you said you can glean from a game like that. Now, my take, Sal, is that it's hard to win 13 games in a row. And the Eagles had just won 10 of them and had put themselves in a wonderful position. But to me, there's I don't know, Sal, you've been on, you and I have talked about a million sidelines. But I do think there's a cumulative stress to a 10-game win streak. And eventually you're going to start making some mistakes. And I think, Sal, that's what happened yesterday against a very talented young quarterback.
Well, there were mistakes made for sure. And that's why they lost the game. I think there were 4 specific mistakes that were made in the game. Could be the result of stress, lack of focus, whatever you want to call it. It's very difficult to obviously go through a season where you win every game now, especially when you got a 17-game schedule. Mistake number 1, Jalen Hurts should have been sliding. You can't go in head first. Now, in his press conference today, Nick Sirianni kind of danced around the subject, but they obviously have put a major emphasis on him sliding feet first. You have seen it all year long. He has done it. Obviously, he goes headfirst into that Philly, the brotherly shove. But when he's outside the pocket, running at full speed, and defenders are running at full speed with violent intent, he must slide feet first. That mistake was number one. Mistake number two was the referees did not flag Frankie Luvo for that helmet-to-helmet hit. Pat, they flagged Jalen Carter for playing touch football with Jaden Daniels.
I know.
Pat.
Yeah.
Touch football with Jaden Daniels and a helmet-to-helmet hit on Jalen Hurts was not called.
No.
Mistake number three was CJ Gardner-Johnson. That completely changed everything on defense. He is your center fielder. He is the last line of protection. He is a remarkably great player at his position. And getting thrown out for whatever reason, was it the ref's problem? Was it his problem? Doesn't matter. Can't happen. He was off the field, and that was a big problem for that defense.
Yeah.
And mistake number four. Am I on four? Yeah. Devontae Smith drops the football.
Right. I thought Kenny Pickens acquitted himself reasonably well in the game, Sal. His stats weren't overwhelming. 14 of 24, 143 yards. I think he zeroed in on A.J. Brown a little bit much, but I still think he acquitted, as a backup quarterback, he acquitted himself well enough that the Eagles put 33 points up.
Time out for 1 second. Forget the stats. In the penultimate drive, 7 plays, 87 yards that the Eagles have the football. 12 plays, 34 yards that the Eagles have the football. He completed not one, but 2 passes on 4th down. A 4th and 1, and then a 4th and 7. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith was the first one. A.J. Brown was the second one for 15 yards. The young man, when he was up against it, completed 2 4th down passes on the road in the 4th quarter. And then he has that pass to Devontae Smith that Smith drops it. So while people want to dump on Kenny Pickett, please don't. Please don't do that. He was thrown into a situation that was difficult. If you want to throw anybody into the cauldron, it's Kellen Moore. Was he watching the game? Why was he calling zone reads and RPOs for a quarterback who can't run? There were times where they didn't even go anywhere near Kenny Pickett. They were just piling on Saquon Barkley.
Plus, Sal, you're right about that. By the way, Big C, who's one of our streamers here, viewers, he got it. Ken Stabler, 29-yard run was Oakland's only touchdown in that immaculate reception game. Sal, you did note in the second half of the game that the Commanders basically said, Saquon's not going to beat us anymore. And they collapsed on him. And they said, okay, let's see if this kid, or if the Eagles will let this kid throw the ball down the field. And I think you hit on that Kellen Moore didn't really let him do that. And as a result, Saquon got battled up, and the Commanders started winning the time of possession.
Well, he can't run an RPO offense. He's not a dual threat quarterback. So they needed to change what they were doing. Now, on Saturday night before the game, they activated Kari Blasingame, a fullback. Remember, Van Sumeren was hurt. They were using him a lot as a fullback. They finally get the guy, Kari Blasingame, that they like to replace Van Sumeren. He played 1 snap in the game, 1. I'm not a football coach, but I've watched a lot of football in my life. What you should have done in that game is put Blasingame on the field, put Frank Johnson as an extra tackle, a tight end, put Kenny Pickett under center. He was never under center. He was in shotgun the entire game. And do play action to Saquon Barkley, run power runs. I didn't see a sweep. I didn't see a reverse. I didn't see a pitch. You didn't get him on the edges with a pitch. Where is that play? Where's the power run play? Where's the play action off of it to A.J. Brown?
Exactly.
Where's the screen passes? None of those plays were called. You're running RPOs and you're running zone reads with a quarterback who's not a dual threat quarterback. I talked to Bobby Wagner on the field after the game. And he was shocked. He was blown away. He said, quote, "They made it easy for us."
How about that? How about that? So the Eagles coaching staff came up a little small there. I think you're certainly right about that. And then it is odd, as you pointed out, you texted to me, the Eagles only the second team in the Super Bowl era to rush for 200 yards, score 30, force 5 turnovers, and lose. Not distinguished company that you want to be in. But I just think, as Nick Sirianni said, Sal, a sloppy effort. And he did. He started with him, the typical Andy Reid comment, but I guess he was right here. The coaching staff bears some culpability here.
Oh, a lot. Most of it. 9/10 of it. Please, I'm begging the Eagles fans, do not blame Kenny Pickett. He's not a dual threat quarterback. He was given plays that a dual threat quarterback is supposed to run. And they gave him, they put him in the shotgun in obvious passing situations. And all Dan Quinn did was blitz. Dan Quinn totally outcoached Kellen Moore in the second half. He knew what Kellen Moore was going to do because he coached with Kellen Moore in Dallas. He knew Kellen Moore has been a horrible adjustment coordinator. That's why he was gone from Dallas, didn't stay on the left coast. And this was a case where at halftime, Jalen Hurts is not coming back on the field. Nick Foles is not walking through that door.
Right.
You needed to adjust that offense. Yeah. Nevertheless, there's still only one drop pass away from being 14-1. Right. So overall, I'm going to say this, Pat. If you have Saquon Barkley healthy, if you have Jalen Hurts healthy and A.J. Brown, and they are pumping on all cylinders, and Jalen Carter on defense, I don't think there's any team in the NFC that can beat this team on the road or at home. I think this is the number one team talent-wise in the NFL. So the only thing that matters, in my mind, is getting Jalen Hurts whole and healthy for the playoffs. Forget Saquon's record. Forget the division title. Nobody can beat this team if Jalen Hurts is healthy. Nobody.
It's interesting, Sal. Sal, now, given what you just said, Detroit wins yesterday. Philadelphia loses. Now, the number one seed to me basically is out of reach at this point. It's like a miracle for the Eagles to get it. So tell me from your standpoint, how does that change the outlook of the Eagles in the next 2 weeks? Given the uncertainty about Hurts, what should the Eagles be thinking about? Maybe should they be, what I'm asking is, should they be extra cautious now with Hurts in terms of trying to rushing him back maybe next week against Dallas? How do you see the Eagles handling this?
Not extra cautious, super extra cautious, in my view.
Right.
I don't run the team. I'm not Howie Roseman. I'm not Jeffrey Lurie. I'm not Nick Sirianni. But they have to say to themselves, what is our most important priority in the next 2 weeks? It's making sure that Jalen Hurts is healthy for the playoffs. And it looks like they're going to be playing on wild card weekend. So they got to be ready.
Right.
And they got to have a healthy Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, and A.J. Brown, and Jalen Carter. Those are, and I think Jalen Carter, I watched a lot of Jalen Carter in my binoculars from the press box. He was double teamed on every single snap. They just decided that Carter was not going to beat them. And he was getting increasingly frustrated. And that's why you could see him getting emotional.
Right.
In my view, Jalen Carter is the best defensive player in the National Football League.
Yeah. He is certainly a presence, a formidable one at that. But now I want to go back. You made it clear. Saquon just enough now with this record. He's 267 yards away, but there's a cautionary tale there with Jalen Hurts, right? As you mentioned, the Eagles, I think, are still the top team in the NFC with those guys healthy. So should the Eagles adopt the same pragmatic, maybe not super cautious, but equally cautious attitude towards Barkley in the last 2 weeks?
It doesn't matter about attitude. If Jalen Hurts is not on the field, they have to change their running game. When you have a dual threat quarterback like Jalen Hurts, the defense must focus on Jalen Hurts as a running quarterback. At any time, he calls that power quarterback run, or he does the quarterback delay or the quarterback draw, and he keeps it. And he goes for 13, 16, 18, 9, whatever it is. It's a killer.
Yeah.
And so what did we see against the Ravens? We saw one of the great things of beauty. They had Saquon leak out. They had him in motion. And there goes the Ravens middle linebacker to Saquon Barkley. Now, between the hash marks is this huge hole. And then you put Becton, Dickerson, and Juergens in the middle of that hole. That's like having basically a snow plow in the middle of the field. They are just plowing people out.
Right.
And Jalen Hurts goes right up the middle. And I forget how much he gained, but the middle linebacker was vacated between the numbers. He was following Saquon Barkley, who was in motion. And I think he must have gone for, if I remember correctly, 18 yards or 19 yards in that play. But if you don't have Jalen Hurts as a threat to run,
I got you.
It changes the way defenses go on to Saquon Barkley. So how can he go after the record? I don't get it.
Yep, it's Sam Bradford all over again. I understand you perfectly in what you're saying. I think also an added element to that is let's be careful here. Assuming that the Eagles, all they need to do is win one of the last two to lock up that 2 seed. Then let's be careful with Saquon. Nice to come close to the record, but that's the way of it.
Oh, they're going to beat the Cowboys. They'll beat the Cowboys.
All right.
I think they're 11.5-point favorites. They're the largest favorite on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And they're just so far superior in talent, even with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. All they have to do is change the offense a little bit for Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett is good enough to, beat the Cowboys for sure, but he's not good enough to beat the Lions on the road or the Vikings on the road. That's for sure.
All right. Sal Pal, I just want to get around the league with 2 questions here before I have to let you go. Okay.
Yep.
The first one, Sal, is, and I'm sorry, I'm going to lead with this and you can answer as you wish. You certainly have that pedigree. All right. But in Saturday's game, Kansas City hosting Houston, Patrick Mahomes is hit as he's throwing the ball. The ball comes out sideways, lands on the ground. He's hit around the neck area. A Houston player goes 86 yards with the fumble for a touchdown. Nope. They rule it an incomplete pass and throw in a roughing the passer penalty. My question to you is now, in Kansas, this is in Kansas City, of course. If that's Dorian Thompson-Robinson, if that's Mac Jones, is that call being called that way, or is it that much harder to win in Kansas City?
Pat, you've been observing American professional sports your whole life. What are you like 55 now, Pat? 51
I wish, Sal. I wish.
Pat, okay. There's Jordan rules, Pat. There are Jordan rules. There just are.
Yeah.
And you're going to get the calls. Patrick Mahomes is going to get the calls. Yeah. Now, we saw an example of Sunday. Now, Jalen Hurts, you got to slide.
Right.
But Frankie Luvo, helmet-to-helmet hit, that was an absolute penalty. There's no question in my mind. So, there are Jordan rules. It's just the way the world works. Life is unfair. Deal with it.
All right. That's a good one. Okay. The last one, Sal, I don't see any way Green Bay loses hosting New Orleans. Next week, a massive game in the NFC North. Green Bay hosting Minnesota. Just give me your take there. I know you like the Packers. Do you like them to hold serve here against slinging Sammy Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings?
Sudden Sam, slinging Sam, Sudden Sam McDowell, slinging Sammy Ball. And he's just Sam Darnold. That's all he is. Let's not give him any nicknames for those legends of sports yet, Pat. It's been 1 year, and I don't like them. I don't like the Vikings in Green Bay. It's hard to go up there. The Packers are playing really well. If you watched our matchup show this past week, I know that you did. We did a terrific piece on Jeff Hafley, the defensive coordinator. There's a reason why Matt LaFleur wanted Hafley, got him from Boston College, because he wants to bring the conversation. He wants to bring the funk and the noise to the offense, not the other way around. It's not a passive defense by any stretch of the imagination. They are blitzing. They're blitzing up the A-gaps, and this will be Brian Flores versus Jeff Hafley. Who can get the quarterback the most and who can cause the turnovers? And I think in the end, just because it's in Green Bay, the Packers will win the game. It is a massive game, but I like the Packers a lot.
All right. Sal Pal, I know you're in constant demand. I appreciate you taking this time.
Oh, yeah. I got ravioli going, Pat. It's the Christmas dinner, Pat.
I understand.
Come on. You gotta let me go have my Christmas dinner. Merry Christmas to everybody at This Week in Pro Football. Thank you, Xander. Everybody at JAKIB Media. It's been a great season so far. Let's keep it going. Let's have a happy holiday.
All right, Sal, pal. Thanks very much. Merry Christmas to you, pal. Thank you. All right, listen, we get back here. We'll digest what Sal Pao had to say. We'll take a quick look at the playoff picture and that Week 17 expansive schedule. We'll do all that next on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Auto.
Welcome back. We've got another exciting play underway at KennedyAuto.com.
That's right. At KennedyAuto.com, you can browse their entire inventory from home.
The customer is scrolling hundreds of Ford, Mazda, and Subaru vehicles right at his fingertips.
He made his selection and got a bottom line price set directly to his email. He could go all the way.
And the deal is good, all without leaving his couch. Incredible. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Discover the essence of true community banking with First Bank, your trusted partner across Eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Their network of branches brings you convenient access to dedicated personal bankers who understand your unique needs. At First Bank, you're not just a customer, you're a valued member of the community. Additionally, they are excited to announce the opening of 2 new branches in Media, Pennsylvania and Trenton, New Jersey, bringing their personalized banking services even closer to you. Connect with any member of the team today at their Westchester office, conveniently located at 849 Paoli Pike, or call them at 484-881-3800. First Bank is an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Welcome back here This Week in Pro Football. Bill Reinhard will be joining me in just a few minutes to talk about why Josh Allen's the greatest person in the history of the universe. But before we get to that, Xander, if you can bring up those, let's do that playoff picture here where everything stands. Here's the way the seedings are right now. There's still some other teams in the hunt, but on the right here, if you look at the AFC, this is why I asked Sal that question. You see Kansas City, the number 1 seed. Buffalo is 2. Buffalo is 12-3. Kansas City 14-1. Buffalo would have to win out and Kansas City lose out in order for Buffalo to get that 1 seed from Kansas City. Very unlikely that's going to happen. But Sal mentioned the Jordan rules. I know Josh Allen is smart enough and the Bills are smart enough. They don't want to go to Arrowhead, because it is tough to beat those 11, and it's much tougher to beat those 18. Because I'm telling you, that's what happens when you go to Arrowhead. So Buffalo, a daunting task, even though they keep winning. They keep winning out. Tough time with New England, though, yesterday. Baltimore, still not the division leader right now in the NFC North. You see, it's still Pittsburgh. I'll be surprised, though. Pittsburgh with Kansas City coming in. I think Baltimore's going to end up winning that division. Those teams will flip. Houston, of course, wins that division. So what? And right now, it's L.A. and Denver in the playoff positions in those other wild card spots. Cincinnati, though, hanging on. Cincinnati has to win out. Denver has to lose out. They do play each other this week, this Saturday. In the NFC, you can see that Detroit now, I think, has that number 1 seed. But if Minnesota wins out, they are at Green Bay and home to Detroit. Minnesota would get the number 1 seed. Minnesota, I'm just shocked. The Vikings at 13-2 with Sam Darnold. Amazing. Atlanta now grabs the 4 seed because Tampa Bay just didn't show last night against Dallas. Terrible first half for the Buccaneers. You're just going to get that sometimes from Baker Mayfield. That's the way of it. You're only paying him $33 million. So what do you expect? Philadelphia sits in that 2 seed. Looks like they're going to end up with the Commanders again. The Rams in the 3 seed. Looks like they got that Division 1. So things firming up a bit. I think in the NFC, the only real question is going to be who wins that NFC South. Okay, Xander, thanks. If you bring up that Week 17 schedule, we'll take a quick look at that. I'm really doing this to make sure you all realize or know what's going on here in terms of television schedules. you see right there, it's Chiefs and Steelers on Christmas Day and Ravens, Texans. They're the same 4 teams that played last Saturday. So the NFL, very nice, gives them an additional day off there before they have to play in the middle of the week in the NFL's insatiable quest for additional revenue dollars. You got Ravens, Texans preceded by Chiefs and Steelers. Then you have 3 Saturday games. If you see there, after the Thursday game, Seahawks, Bears, which should be a real snooze. Then you have Chargers, Patriots at 1 o'clock Saturday. You got Broncos, Bengals at 4:30, and then Cardinals, Rams. If the Rams win that game, they win the NFC West. That's it. Cardinals are already eliminated after getting upset by the Panthers yesterday. And then the Sunday schedule, note the flip there. The Eagles and Cowboys, which was 4:25, got flipped to 1 o'clock, and Minnesota and Green Bay got flipped to 4:30. All right. So there you have it. There's your week 17 schedule there. The Monday night game or the late Sunday game, Falcons and Commanders. Not a bad game. Not a bad game, Falcons, Commanders. We'll see if the Commanders snap back now. That was a very, very emotional win for them last week. Be interesting to see how emotional or how fired up they are for that Sunday nighter. And then the Lions and 49ers, what was supposed to be a marquee game, San Francisco already eliminated. 49ers is having a terrible year now at 6-9. All right. Thank you, Xander. All right, listen, we're going to take a quick break here. When we get back, I'm going to be joined by Bill Reinhard. We're going to talk some fantasy championship football here, probably 1 week to go in most leagues. So we'll wrap that up with Bill, and we'll see who he's got in mind for your one-off starts and sits for your championship week. We'll do that next on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Fantasy Guru.
What on earth are you doing? We have dinner reservations in 15 minutes.
I'm trying to figure out who to start in my fantasy football lineup. Every website I check has a different opinion. It's driving me crazy. How do you set your lineup so fast?
I have a secret weapon that will blow your mind.
Wow. What's the secret?
I've been using fantasyguru.com for all of my fantasy football decisions.
Fantasyguru.com? Isn't that with that crazy guy, Jeff Mans?
You mean the legendary fantasy guru, Jeff Mans? He's a genius. Fantasyguru.com has everything you need to dominate your league. Starts, sits, busts. It's like having a fantasy football expert panel in your corner.
Wow, fantasyguru.com. But I feel like you're cheating on me.
How do you think I won our league last year? Fantasyguru.com. It'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Join fantasyguru.com today. Use the code NEW30 for 30% off instant savings.
Evolution Energy Partners has helped hundreds of businesses save millions of dollars on their energy spend. They offer electricity and gas procurement strategies, efficiency audits and engineering and financing solutions, as well as online utility bill management. To learn how your business can save, visit www.evolutionep.com or contact Chuck Herschella at 610-329-8288. Evolution Energy Partners, energy solutions to improve your bottom line.
At Whistler Pearlstein LLP, we assemble the most effective team to handle all of your legal needs. There are players and pretenders, but our hustle and heart set us apart. In practice now for over 75 years, we're proud to be one of the most prominent full-service law firms in the Philadelphia region. We offer 17 different areas of practice, including business, corporate, and tax education law, real estate, zoning, and land development, municipal law, and litigation. Our top-rated attorneys and staff are laser-focused on client success. We strive to provide outstanding legal counsel with the highest level of care and consideration. Let us show you the Whistler way. Learn more at WhistlerPearlstein.com or email Michael J. O'Donohue at mod@whistpearl.com. WhistlerPearlstein.com or mod@whistpearl.com.
Welcome back here this week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan joining you. Week 17, the National Football League, an early edition of This Week in Pro Football with Christmas coming Wednesday. And I don't know what this guy got me, but I'm sure it's very expensive and hasn't arrived yet. But I've no doubt I'll be looking tomorrow for the Amazon or the Brinks truck or I don't know, so Cartier, something like that. No doubt delivering the gift from this guy, Bill Reinhard from fantasyguru.com, the New York Daily News. Bill, how you doing?
I'm well. You just keep waiting, Pat. It'll be there.
Bill,
I
all right,
promise,
Bill.
pal.
I know. And I don't want some game-worn Buffalo Bills hat either. Bill,
Come on now. Hey, I'm wearing my Christmas Buffalo
see
Bills
that.
hat.
It
also doubles as my St. Patrick's Day hat, so I wear it twice a year.
Very nice, pal. Very nice, very sartorially resplendent tonight, Bill.
Just for
Good
you.
job. All right, Bill, look, just a couple of one-offs if we could start this way. First off, kudos to the Las Vegas Raiders for ignoring the cacophony about tanking. Well, somebody had to win that game, Raiders and Jacksonville. So,
Yep.
I mean, but it's amazing. The social media comments about the Raiders, they should have lost that game. I don't think there's any room for any talk about tanking anywhere in the NFL. And good on the Raiders for not listening to it, huh?
100%. As long as you're charging people money to come see you play, then win. It's that simple. Although I'm sure the Giant fans are happy now. Because,
I know. Well, the Giant fans, I guess the Giant fans, Bill, can be happy, but don't ask 45 guys who are trying to get themselves paid for next year and have a ton of pride to go out there and do something stupid so that you lose. I just think that's ridiculous. I wish fans would knock it off with that kind of talk. How about one of the all-time bad beats, Bill? I don't know if you were up against anybody who had Devon A-Chain yesterday. I still am. My brother had him, and this is in the point league we have. And all right, that game's over. San Francisco, it's 22-17. The Dolphins have the ball. 49ers out of timeouts. Now, guy takes off on a 60-yard touchdown run where he should have taken a knee. He didn't even bother doing that. How bad a beat does that qualify as?
It doesn't seem quite fair, but it is the NFL. I don't know. It's not like college football where the more points you score, the higher seed you get. So I don't know. I don't know why they do something like that. But for fantasy purposes, it certainly was a boon to A-Chain owners. That's for sure. It certainly
was. And for guys who were playing against A-Chain owners, that was brutal.
Yeah.
See that happen, right? Because in our league, you get 6 bonus points for 100 yards, and you get the touchdown. So and then over 50, you get an additional point. So he got 13 points on that run. That's
I know. Well, Zay Flowers, I played against my son this weekend. He had Zay Flowers, who had 100 yards on the button. So he got a pass, 15 yards, and the 4 extra bonus points. My son also had Jaden Daniels.
Oh, my God.
And here I was worried about taking it easy on the kid. I'm this professional. I know what I'm doing. I don't want to destroy his dreams. He kicked my ass. And he's going to our championship game, and I'm sitting here, pounded salt. But I want him to win, Pat, because I paid his entry fee, and I'll be damned if I won't get it back. So I want him to win, so I get my money back.
I got it. Well, last week you talked up Bijan, who had a big game. Yeah. And you talked up James Conner, who had a big game.
Yeah.
Conner stayed remarkably healthy this year until the second half of that game when they could have used him. And
only a matter of time before Conner goes down. But 117 yards on 15 carries. He had like 50 yards receiving, and he had a touchdown. If he would have had well over 250 yards total if he got to play that whole game, because he missed a quarter and a half, and they needed him.
Yeah, they obviously did. I agree with you. You mentioned Jaden Daniels, Bill. Do you see him as a top 3 fantasy quarterback next year?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. I really am. I had no idea. Again, I have to give credit to my son. He drafted him in like the 5th round, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you serious?" And he looked at me, and he knew something I didn't know. But I didn't expect. And he doesn't have great targets, Pat. I mean, I know Terry McLaurin. I like him. He's one of my starts this week. He's trying to break the all-time record for touchdowns in a season for Commanders, for Redskins teams. But who's he really throwing to?
Yeah.
Nobody.
I know.
Jamison Crowder had 2
I was shocked.
touchdowns.
I was shocked to hear the name Jamison Crowder. I thought
He's our age. Are
yeah,
you
this guy's got to
kidding
be
me?
45 years old.
I know.
He comes up with 2 touchdowns in that game yesterday.
Caught 2 catches.
Zacchaeus had to be the last name in fantasy football right there.
Exactly. Alphabetically.
Yes. Yeah. So that was, but you know what else strikes me, Bill, about Jaden Daniels? It's amazing that he has played. I know he's missed some time, but he is not big. He's got to bulk up. If he can bulk himself up without sacrificing his remarkable agility, he will be a major handful in 2025.
But there's some guys that get hit and it doesn't look like they get hit. You know what I mean? Like Barry Sanders, I always felt like you could never really get a clean hit on Barry Sanders because he bounced off guys. And I watched Daniels play. He kind of has that same elasticity about him. For some reason, he doesn't seem brittle like an Anthony Richardson. So that, I mean, it just works in his favor. He's in a tough division. I mean, NFC East is not an easy division, regardless of how the Giants are playing. The defenses are always pretty sound. So, he's got a great career. It's going to be a lot of fun watching that kid for a while.
Talking with Bill Reinhard from the New York Daily News and FantasyGuru.com. Bill, this week I was just talking about the schedule. It's really spread out. It can't be any more spread out.
Nope.
From Wednesday to Monday. And that's going to be an additional layer of complexity for fantasy managers that are in title games because, and I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
If Kansas City wins Wednesday at Pittsburgh, I'll be surprised if they don't. I mean, you got Mahomes on one side, you got Russell Wilson on the other. That's worth a touchdown right there. But you never know. Kansas City's been doing it they're 14-1, but they have been skin of their teeth 14-1. So it's always possible. But my question to you is, if the Chiefs win, will that affect the way Buffalo, which at that point would be locked into the 2 seed, will that affect the way Buffalo looks at Josh Allen, who was shaking that right hand awful hard yesterday?
I agree, and I was worried, but they're not locked in because they lost to the Ravens. So if the Bills drop their last 2 against the Patriots and the Jets, then because they played the Patriots again the last game, and the Ravens win their next 2, the Ravens would win their division and they have the tiebreaker against Buffalo.
Right.
However, if the Ravens lose to the Texans this weekend, highly unlikely, especially that team, as soon as Tank Dell went down, their spirit was crushed. I don't know. I guess, he's a big part of their team. That's lovely to see, but they really didn't play well after that. If the Ravens lose and Kansas City wins, I would hope that, Buffalo takes a break, sits Josh down, let him heal up, because apparently he has a broken left hand too right now, which they didn't talk about all season. So sit him down. And, I'm not a big believer in, keeping your players playing just to keep them fresh. I mean, they're professional football players. They'll be fine. Here's the other thing, Pat, is the Bills really don't want to be the 1 seed. They do not want to play the Ravens. They would rather play, in my estimation, they'd rather go to Kansas City and play them at Kansas City than face the Ravens at home. They are not designed to beat the Ravens with Henry running the ball and Jackson running and throwing. So I think it behooves them to just stay at the number 2.
That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one there, Bill. But I'll tell you this, Bill. The Buffalo could have Tim Allen at quarterback the last 2 weeks, and they're not losing to the Patriots and the Jets. They are not losing to the Jets. The Jets are the Jets, and there's just
the Jets always play the Bills well, and the Patriots scared the hell out of me yesterday.
You sound like Bill Belichick now. I know you. Get out of here. You sound like Nick Saban, for God's sake.
At least I'm not a homer. At least I'm not saying we're going to go kick some butt.
Yeah, all right. A couple other fantasy things I want to ask you, Bill. Give me some matchups you like maybe for Week 17. Give me some one-off guys at any position that you're thinking, hey, here's a good chance. Let's get this guy in this lineup.
Yeah, Bucky Irving against the Panthers, because everybody's running against the Panthers. I wrote in the Daily News, it comes out in a couple of days, that defensive linemen for the Panthers have whiplash from their necks. They're just like watching running backs. He goes, keep whipping right by him. So Bucky Irving had over 150 yards rushing and a touchdown last game. Rashad White with a huge fumble last night. So I think is going to cost him some playing time. So I'm all over Bucky Irving. As I said before, I like Terry McLaurin. He's going for an all-time touchdown record. He's tied right now with Ricky Sanders. And then I wrote this down. Jerry Smith from 1967, Charlie Taylor from 1966, and Hugh Taylor from 1952. Would you believe those guys and Ricky Sanders, the most touchdowns in a year for any DC guy is 11 touchdowns. So I do like McLaurin to break that record next week. My other one, Trey McBride. Horrible game last week. Disappeared at the worst opportunity for fantasy playoffs. But he plays against your Rams. He's only played him 3 times, but every time he's had double-digit points. So even in his rookie year. So those are my definite starts. You want some sits?
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about a guy. Let you and I share some sits because I'm going to give you a couple. I want you to tell me if you would agree that maybe it's time to sit somebody. And these are big names, but I think these guys who appear to be out of gas. And I'll start with Cooper Kupp. He's just not getting it done right now. Your thoughts on maybe even sitting a name like that in week 17?
Well, he's on my team, and he definitely cost me last week. It's not so much Kupp. He's open, but Stafford is not throwing to him. Kupp got 4 targets yesterday. He caught all 4. Nakua got 9 targets. The next closest guy got 2 targets. It's not necessarily Kupp. It's just how Stafford is distributing the ball. So can you blame Kupp? I don't know.
No.
But should you start him? Probably not.
No, because one other thing is the Rams defense is very much bend and don't break. Their Rams time of possession is not good, and they don't get that ball that many times. Let me hit you with a couple other names. Give me an up or down. Joe Mixon appears to be out of gas. I've been lauding this guy all season long, but he has really tailed off the last few weeks. Care to sit him?
Yeah, I sit him against the Ravens, right? I just can't see it. I don't see it. Not against the Ravens.
All right. Juwan, I was going to ask you about Juwan Jennings, but let me broaden it. I think any 49er except for George Kittle, you just got to get him out of your lineup.
Well, it's funny because I have Jennings as a start. He's been playing against pretty decent secondaries. Now they get a little easier road this week. He is their best receiver. I mean, Deebo Samuel's still, he scored. I told you he would score last week, so miracle of miracles. But I still think he's a good wide receiver too. Plus they're going to have to throw, so I'm okay with Jennings this week.
I think the 49ers, if they hand Brock Purdy $50 million, then God bless. I hope they do. They do. He had Kittle wide open for a touchdown yesterday. I was using Kittle, and he hit the nearest Dolphin right in the head with the ball. And Brock Purdy is not worth $5 million. Never mind $50 million, but they're going to pay him. Bill, we'll see. We'll see. It's a seller's market for quarterbacks right now. The last name, and this is a guy who's made a habit of this, Bill, DK Metcalf, just disappears seemingly every year at the end of the season.
Every year. And we talked about him in like week 5 or 6, how he's such a freak and you have to keep him in your lineups. We talked about his wingspan because if you throw it within 6 yards, he'll catch it. Well, I don't know where he is. I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba has been tearing it up, but Metcalf, I don't start him again. I talk about guys you don't hear of. You don't hear about Metcalf anymore. He's not even causing a tantrum on the sideline. He's just quietly disappearing. So, I have no problem sitting Metcalf if you have a better option.
Do you have any others besides my list? Anybody else?
Yeah. So decoys have been around since 400 BC, and the Buffalo Bills have one of the best decoys in history in Amari Cooper.
I know.
So whatever you do, don't go thinking that because of his pedigree, he's going to do well. Same thing, DeAndre Hopkins, D-Hop. He's disappeared. Hollywood Brown came in. He was second on the team in targets, and all of a sudden D-Hop gets 4 top. And today Andy Reid said that Hollywood Brown's going to get more time. So I'm sure that'll be at D-Hop's expense. My last sit, I don't like Rico Dowdell. I call him Dowdell. It's Dowdell. But he's beat up on the Giants and the Panthers. He had a good run of a lot of yards, and everyone thinks he's the answer to the Cowboys running backs. But against the Lions, the Ravens, the Eagles, and now he has the Eagles again, He has been less than average. So do not go rolling in thinking that Rico's going to play like Uncle Rico, Napoleon Dynamite.
That's good advice there. But those two names you mentioned, they were the two big mid-season wide receiver acquisitions that, of course, half the suits in the NFL were talking about as being big acquisitions by their teams. And you're right. Yeah. They've turned into virtually nothing.
Big difference makers is what they said.
Amari, there's just something off with Amari Cooper. He's got DK Metcalf syndrome too. He just takes games off. But not easy to do when you got Josh Allen as your quarterback, but he manages to do it.
I know, and they needed him yesterday too. Yeah. I mean, he had 2 targets yesterday. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. All right, Bill Reinhard, where does everybody find you? When is that column coming out? And God forbid what you're doing this time. You probably did you push Clement Moore out of the way? And now you're doing the night before Christmas. What are you doing?
I blame Santa Claus for my loss to my son because he put coal in my stocking. So that's the article is about for the Guru, which comes out tomorrow, is all about how Santa screwed me on Christmas. So my son won the game. The New York Daily News comes out. It doesn't come out tomorrow. It'll come out on Christmas bright and early for your starts and sits for the rest of the week.
Okay. All right, Bill Reinhard. I want you to have a Merry Christmas, Bill.
You too, Pat.
Thanks for joining me all season. I want you back one more time. We can wrap up the season next week.
My pleasure.
And we could talk about all the things that I was right on. Okay. It won't take long. It won't be a long segment. All right.
You got it, Pat. Right, Go Bills. Merry Christmas.
All right. Thanks very much, Bill. All right. Looking forward to be joined next by CJ Sullivan, who's going to join me from the Sports Gambling Podcast. We're going to talk about that Week 17 schedule and get a little more flavor on the Eagles and what the smart money is saying about the Philadelphia Eagles now in the wake of that loss. We're going to do that next here on this Christmas edition of This Week in Pro Football.
Welcome to Park Bank, a return to better banking. With 7 locations across Philadelphia and South Jersey, we prioritize your financial well-being with a blend of modern amenities and traditional customer service. Our professional team is dedicated to providing tailored banking solutions, whether you are opening your first account, planning for retirement, or expanding your business. Our services include a wide range of personal and business banking options with competitive deposit rates and products. We are committed to making your banking experience seamless and efficient with the latest technology at your fingertips and the personalized support you deserve. Park Bank, your community. For more information, go to parkbank.com. That's Park, P-A-R-K-E, bank.com. Member FDIC. Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated is the concrete cutting specialist in the Philadelphia area since 1995. And they've become the specialist in the Pittsburgh area as well. These guys are celebrating 28 years as the industry leader in the field of concrete cutting and robotic demolition. So if you have a project that requires any type of concrete cutting or drilling, concrete demolition, or interior excavating, call the specialist, Concrete Cutting Systems, located at 2514 Orthodox Street in the heart of Philly. Call them at 215-533-0652. With a fleet of over 70 service trucks, Concrete Cutting Systems Incorporated is always ready to service all of your concrete cutting, drilling, and concrete demolition and highway sealing needs. These guys are the only full union concrete cutting company based in Philadelphia. So don't delay. Call the boys today at 215-533-0652. And be sure to check them out on Facebook and Instagram at CCSINC_Phila or on the web at concretecuttingsystems.net.
Welcome back here this week in Pro Football. I'm reading some of the text on the stream here. I see Niners all damn days telling me the Rams are a first-round exit. Sorry, Pat. Jeez. Look, I appreciate Niners all damn day watching the show, so I won't offer my opinion. I just, as a Ram fan, that is a rivalry, ladies and gentlemen. The Eagle fans don't really see it, but boy, that is a blood feud out there between San Francisco and Los Angeles. But Bad year for the 49ers. Just a bad year. Usually the league is better when the Niners are good, but just an off. Just everything went wrong for San Francisco this year. How about we bring this gentleman on, Xander? I'm very pleased to be having him join me here. CJ Sullivan from the Sports Gambling Podcast. CJ, how you doing?
Good, Pat. How you doing? How are you?
I appreciate you filling in there for the traveling Mr. Green.
Traveling Mr. Green on the holidays. I'm here from Los Angeles. As a Ram fan, you should probably know that they are guaranteed to lose to Arizona to set up that finale versus Seattle, right? For all the marbles. That's just what the Rams do.
You know, it's funny because they're winning games. You talk about I was taking a shot at Kansas City for the way they were winning games en route to 14-1. Well, the Rams are doing about the same thing.
I know.
They rolled over the Jets 19-9 yesterday. But you know what, CJ, they're going to win against Arizona because the Cardinals are out now, and I don't see a Cardinal team showing up at all. But we'll see. The Rams are capable of anything. I agree.
No, that's what I mean with the Rams. You just never know what you're going to get. If I know the Rams, and I have since I've lived out here in LA, this is what they do. They lose these games they're supposed to win, but then they'll win Seattle in that finale.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for taking the time. Let me get your thoughts from out on the left coast. Show here is on the East Coast. The Eagles and Commanders game was a wild game.
Amazing.
Were you surprised to see how the Eagle defense really got beat up by a rookie quarterback yesterday?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that was the first time the Eagles defense in a while, obviously, since the first month of the season, did not look good there. Like scored 3 touchdowns in the last 4 drives, it seemed like. But it was just a wild game in general, just with the turnovers. And then you had Gardner Johnson getting kicked out for talking words. Listen, the refs. Call your interference, call offsides, stay out of the trash talking. But nobody cares what they're saying on the field. They're throwing unsportsmanlike conduct. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it for whatever. I'm sure he did say something down there, but who cares? Let that go. It goes on. It's just not their world. You know what I mean?
No, it's a good point because it was as Sal Paolantonio said earlier on this show, that was a major turning point.
Huge.
Lost him. You know?
Absolutely. Then we got a rookie and then they're attacking it, but Daniels looked great at the same time, you know. I wonder if the narrative would have been changed the way they're talking about Daniels now if Devontae, catches that ball and then the last pass Daniels throws is that interception, and if it was part of those 5 turnovers. And,
I know 5 turnovers and you win. That happens once every millennium.
Well, the stat that's out there, 5 turnovers with a 14-point deficit. Yeah. Teams in that position, 3 in 205 straight up. Now you can make that 4 in 205.
So you're saying you consider that a trend of some kind?
That's that kind of stuck out a little bit.
Well, tell me something. What you think? What are the wise guys saying now in Vegas and elsewhere about the Eagles? You got the Hurts injury now. You got some uncertainty there. The Eagles are more or less now. I don't want to say they're locked in, but it looks like they're going to be the 2 seed.
Yeah.
Has the smart money changed its attitude towards Philadelphia reaching a Super Bowl?
Well, it definitely does swap. They got brought down a tick, knowing that they don't have a chance at the 1 now. I mean, because playing at Detroit is a big difference. Now, I feel they can travel, and the numbers have the odds went down a little bit. Kansas City's now the favorite. Detroit is now obviously looking in for that 1. But there's definitely questions with Hurts and that concussion. I mean, I doubt that was his first one this year. Obviously, that Monday night game versus Washington earlier in the season, we did that interview on ESPN, and he had his sunglasses on, and he looked out of it there too. Like I don't think it would be the worst thing to even bench, let Jalen sit the Dallas game out, let him come back. Because like you said, we're locked in with that 2 seed anyway with that division. I mean, obviously not 100% locked in, but it pretty much looks like that either way. They just have to win one of these 2 games. So I would do that. Take this as your bye since only one team gets to bye now, let Hurts sit down. Everything. I know everything was kumbaya with that pass offense versus Pittsburgh, but things weren't exactly figured out. They still wasn't throwing it over the middle. He still wasn't feeling pressure. So I don't know. I think it could be a kind of a recharge, kind of what they needed, kind of what he might need too.
That's a good way to look at it. And I had said that at the start of this show that it's very difficult to win 13 games in a row. So I mean,
absolutely.
And that was good. They were just going to have a day like they had yesterday, and they had it. I think that Sal Paolantonio said they've just got to get past this Hurts injury, and your prescription, I think, is a good one. All right, so. Let just a quick word about that game, CJ, week number 17. It's the biggest on the slate. ESPN Bet had it at 9.5, and now it looks like it might even be higher.
Right.
That's coming to Philadelphia. Give me your quick first take on that game.
Well, tell you what, Dallas is being stubborn. They're playing good. That's shocking to me. The McCarthy's got them playing. I mean, if they would have beat Cincinnati on Monday night, which they pretty much should have, they'd still be in this thing in the playoff, which is kind of crazy. They're at 7-9. I was shocked they beat Tampa Bay last night, but they've been playing great. You don't want to say like beating Carolina is a big thing, but Carolina's been playing better as they've been proven, and they beat them pretty handily. And so last night was first of all, 10 points is way too many. Hurts or no hurts, I think, with Dallas, the way Dallas is playing right now. And obviously it's a revenge game for them in divisional. They're not going to take it off. It's Dallas, Philadelphia coming in. So I think Philadelphia obviously should be bounced back after losing that game. But I certainly don't see a wide margin,
No, and actually Kenny Pickett got banged up too in that game.
Yeah, he did. He was holding his hand there. It was crazy.
Yeah, I know. So all right, the Eagles they just got to get number one healthy.
Right.
CJ, 3 other games I wanted you to give me an opinion on here. Well, before I get away from the Eagles, if I might, I was talking with Sal about Saquon and this record. He's 267 yards away. Do the casinos have a prop on that? Like, can you actually put money down on whether or not he's going to break Dickerson's record?
Sure, you can absolutely do that. You can see if he's going to break the record. You can do when he was going to break the record. I know you could do it for next week, which it's obviously a long shot. But as someone who was at the Eagles-Rams game when he went off this year, I mean, anything's possible with him. But yeah, I'm not sure what the number is, but I know it's about around. Last I checked, it was around even money that he will break the record.
How about that? Yeah, it's an interesting thing because he's 267 yards away. It's 130 a game. He's averaging that.
He's average. And the narrative's right there against the Giants week. I mean, against the Giants, the last game of the season, it has to be.
I know. The only question is, it's a cautionary tale. The Hurts injury is a cautionary tale. Right. Do you want to risk that with Saquon too? So the Eagles have to really think about all those things. All right, CJ, I want to hit you with 3 games here. Give me your opinion on these. Well, first off, this show is airing early. You got New Orleans at Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whopping number right now. But the Saints, you talk about walking wounded. And an outdoor stadium at Lambeau Field's the last place they want to be.
Right.
Do you see any sense in dropping some money on New Orleans?
I know. Well, 14 is a lot. And back in the day, not pretty recently, a couple of years ago, any double-digit NFL line, you would just autoplay that, like splitting aces and blackjack. You wouldn't even think about it. Don't even tell me the matchups. But nowadays, double-digit favorites seem to cover. And if I noticed anything over the last weekend, college and pro, these warm weather teams just do not do well in the cold. You saw Miami a couple weeks ago when they went to Green Bay, and they're a much better team coming in than New Orleans is right now.
Right.
Spencer Rattler gave him some life last week, and they almost rallied to beat Washington in that second half. So I wouldn't put anything past them. I think it's just going to be a tight to the. I also don't see Packers, even though the Packers are rolling. I don't see them being too worked up for this game. So 14, I'm not ready to jump out and lay 14 either, but I'm certainly not taking the Saints. If anything, I would shade the under. It's at 42.5. I think it's gonna be a cold weather, tough grinding out game, and maybe a couple props like Christian Watson to have a nice game. He's been doing well. Jamal Williams coming back to Lambeau. Anytime touchdown, you get them a 3-1. Why not? He's a beloved figure.
All right, Christmas Day, the 2 games on Christmas Day, CJ, Kansas City at Pittsburgh. The Chiefs, I guess, begrudgingly had to leave Arrowhead at some point. So they go to Pittsburgh. I don't think they're bringing their own officiating crew. I don't know.
Goodness
but we'll see if they do. But the Steelers now, Steelers starting to wobble a little bit. 2-3 in their last 5. They're holding on to that division lead right now. How do you see this game?
This is an odd game. This line moved like 5 points within the last couple days because of what we just saw. With Kansas. Well, one was because we thought Mahomes was hurt, but he had one of those fake ankle injuries again as he's running around like he did in the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs have been amazing. They've been obviously extremely charmed all year. They're still good. You can't say they're not good, but like the way they've been winning is it's almost like they consciously chose to do this. Like, let's see if we can play bad and yet win every game this year. We've done it the other ways. Let's try it. Right. It's like they're bored. Right. It's amazing. And so you can either say, oh, the refs are on their side, or you can just stop fighting it and say, all right, let's just go with it and take Kansas City. Like, I just don't see how they lose. I will say this about Pittsburgh though. Yeah. Those last 2 games, obviously, very tough road games at Philly and at Baltimore. No Pickens in either one. Pickens is supposed to come back. It'll be questionable, but it's also 10 games in 3 days for them, so that's going to be tough. Tomlin as a dog is usually money at home, +3. I'd lean Pittsburgh only because Kansas City was just laying 4 at Cleveland. Now it's just a 1 point difference at Pittsburgh. That's a hard sell for me. So
right.
I think the perception you're buying low on Pittsburgh, I'll take them +3.
All right. And the last game I wanted to ask you about is the other Christmas Day game, the Ravens, who looks like they got some juice going again. Indoor game. I think that game is anything indoor is well suited for Lamar Jackson at Houston. Texans a little disappointing right now. I think they appear to have plateaued. CJ, how do you see this game?
For sure, this Houston team's been shaky, even when they have putting wins on the board. Either way, all things. Ever since they blew that game versus Detroit, they've just not looked the part. They don't pass the eyeball test. In Baltimore, you can see. They see the goal. They see the finish line ahead of them. They know they can finish this out. I think they're going to keep on going to get an extra rest there in Houston. Beyonce doing halftime show. Lamar Jackson said he's already going to watch that. I think Baltimore's going to put it on him, to be honest with you here. So it's a 5.5, 5 now, and it's only going to keep climbing up. I think Baltimore, Baltimore is just flying right now.
Yeah, they are. I tell you, Jackson. Lamar's great till that calendar. Somebody rips that.
I know.
We'll see. We'll see what he does in January. Maybe there'll be a sea change. I don't know. All right, CJ, where does everybody find you? Maybe for any last minute looks, props, anything over the weekend?
Sure, absolutely. Well, you can. First of all, any props. Also, I wanted to give out Pat Firemuth on Pittsburgh. I've been playing this trend all year round. You go against the tight ends versus Kansas City because I don't know why Kansas City gives up tight ends. I think the other tight end likes to go against Travis Kelce. Maybe they're going to get a lower grade pop star. I don't know what it is, but you can follow me obviously on X at CJ Sullivan _ but my Bottom Line Bombs podcast is where I give out all my plays. So it's Bottom Line Bombs on the SGPN. You can follow me there.
Excellent. Bottom Line Bombs. That's it. And I appreciate you stepping in here for sure.
Yeah, Pat.
Thanks very much, CJ. Stay well and Merry Christmas to you. All right.
Merry Christmas to you. And I loved hearing all the Philly accents, even through the commercials. Remind me of home. I can't wait to get back there. Go across the Betsy Ross, the best kept secret going across the Delaware. Love it,
CJ,
Pat.
thanks very much, pal.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
All right. CJ Sullivan joined me there, an expatriate, Philadelphia. All right. I'm very excited to have this gentleman back. Mike Sando is going to join me after the break, and we're going to talk about the entire National Football Conference. Mike from The Athletic and the author of the Pick Six every single week, and we'll talk to Mike about that and about what happened out there in the NFC West and how it looks. We'll do all that to wrap up a Christmas edition of This Week in Pro Football. We'll be right back.
Somewhere on the blue planet lies a hidden gem, nestled in the heart of lush greenery. Where the game of golf takes on a new meaning. At Spring Mill Country Club, we offer an unparalleled golfing experience. Our meticulously maintained course is designed to challenge and delight golfers of all levels. But that's not all. Spring Mill is also the perfect venue for your most cherished celebrations. From intimate gatherings to grand weddings, our elegant banquet facilities provide the perfect backdrop for your special day. With exquisite cuisine, personalized service, and breathtaking surroundings, every event at Spring Mill becomes a cherished memory. Let us be a part of your journey, whether it's a round of golf, a celebration, or a once-in-a-lifetime wedding. Spring Mill Country Club, where every moment is extraordinary. Visit us today and create your unforgettable story.
Welcome back. We've got another exciting play underway at KennedyAuto.com.
That's right. At KennedyAuto.com, you can browse their entire inventory from home.
The customer is scrolling hundreds of Ford, Mazda, and Subaru vehicles right at his fingertips.
He made his selection and got a bottom line price set directly to his email. He could go all the way.
And the deal is good, all without leaving his couch. Incredible. KennedyAuto.com. Enjoy your ride.
Johnny Apple's Restaurant and Bar opened in 2001 and for over 20 years has been serving great food and good times to Bucks County residents, friends, and family. Ideally located at 184 Buck Road in Holland, Johnny Apple's offers a terrific array of steaks, seafood, and daily specials. They also host private parties and affairs of any size. For excellent food, great company, and a relaxed lunch or dinner, check out Johnny Apple's Restaurant at 215-953-9900 or at johnnyapplesrestaurant.com.
Welcome back here this week in Pro Football. Pat Callahan with you to wrap up a Christmas edition here on JAKIB Sports. Don't forget, give me a follow on X at TWIPF Pat. You can follow the network at JAKIB Sports. And you can also follow this guy, the host of the Mike Sando show and writer for The Athletic, a Hall of Fame elector, and the author of the Pick Six. That would be Mike Sando. Mike, how you doing? Michael, you must be muted. I'm not hearing you. I think you're still on mute, Michael. Can you get off that mute? Xander, we have to maybe you could text Mike or somehow give him a shot there, because right now it looks like we're not hearing him. So we'll bring Mike back in just a second to talk about. You don't talk much about the NFC West actually right now, because obviously this is the whole league is dominated by the East. So we'll talk a little about that. And I want to talk about, too, Mike's Pick Six article where he talks about the Vikings and the that NFC North, which is really fascinating if you think about it. The NFC North just absolutely loaded with teams. I mean, the records there, 13-2, 13-2. Green Bay should be 11-4. By the time tonight is over with. Man, that is some serious firepower in the NFC North. We'll see how it all shakes out in the next couple of weeks. I hope Mike can join us. I hope we can get that fixed. Michael's longtime writer for The Athletic and a longtime Hall of Fame elector. I'd like to get his opinions on. First off, the Seahawks, a wild loss to Minnesota yesterday. Just a wild loss. Seahawks have now lost 2 straight and have managed to give up the division lead in the NFC West to the Rams. So I think there's a lot of tempers flaring right now in Seattle, because that was a tough loss yesterday. Game they really could have won against the Minnesota Vikings. But Minnesota, like the Chiefs, they keep winning with Sammy Darnold out there. So, Xander, I see now we've lost Mike entirely. So hopefully we can get Mike back. Because the other thing I wanted to talk about, too, was what went wrong in San Francisco. I know I made an allusion to it earlier, that things had gone, that the 49ers were, let's face it, they were everybody's preseason pick to win the NFC West. They were the Super Bowl representative for the NFC last year, and they just got, every team gets hit by injuries. There's no doubt about it. 49ers lost some. Look at Christian McCaffrey, their best player. So that was a big, huge loss. He played I don't know, maybe one game. I think he probably played for San Francisco this year. It's hard to overcome that. And lost, injuries to Samuel, Purdy got banged up. It just all went wrong for San Francisco this year. And the NFC West went from being a very tense division to one that really right now is kind of on a par with the NFC South. All the power in the NFC right now is in the North and the East. And I think it's going to be very hard for any team in the South and the West to survive that wild card weekend. I'd be surprised if any of those teams do. I think you're going to see those 3 teams from the NFC North are going to one of them will be the 1 seed. I think the other 2 will advance too, along with Philadelphia. So I think you're going to see some interesting divisional playoff games in the NFC. And I think you're going to see. And the AFC, as I talked about, that playoff schedule, this the week 17 schedule. And, Buffalo's got an easy run of it right now. They got the Jets and then New England, I think Buffalo. But Kansas City, Pittsburgh, and then Denver. So I don't know. The Chiefs go 16-1. That'd be very interesting to see if they could pull that off. But Kansas City is going to be the 1 seed. So the fact is, as far as the playoffs are concerned, everything is going to have to go through. Everything's going to have to go through Kansas City. And as I was talking about earlier in the show, that is not an easy place to go out and win. So I hope that the Chiefs, we'll see. But I mean, I hopefully the Chiefs will win these games outright, and they won't get the usual assistance, if you will, from the guys in the striped shirts that they've been getting. Mahomes doesn't really need a lot of assistance. He really doesn't. Xander, I don't know. It looks like we're not going to grab Mike. Has Elvis left the building here, I think, or are we trying to get him back? Still had a lot to talk about. So we're still working on trying to hook Mike up. I don't know what happened there with transmission, but we'll give that just a couple more minutes. So the Lions are going to be the 1 seed, I think. I think Detroit's going to be the number 1 seed. I think Minnesota and Green Bay are going to end up 2 and 3. Detroit's not going to lose to San Francisco this week. San Francisco. I'm not saying San Francisco's mailing it in, but the Lions are tough. And the thing about Detroit is they like to beat you. They're not in it just for the for the hardware. They're in it to beat you too. Let's try Mike Sando again. Michael, hopefully we got you. Michael, you with us?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It didn't like my browser. It didn't like the other browser, and now I've got to just make sure.
Oh man, it didn't like Mike's browser. Does it not like Mike's browser again, Xander? All right. Well, Xander will try one more time with Mike, and we'll see if we can get him on. I was talking about the Lions. The Lions like to beat you. They like to embarrass you. I think they're going to beat Detroit on that Monday night game. So I think Detroit ends up with the 1. I think the Eagles end up with the 2. Probably Rams 3, and then the winner of the NFC South 4. And then you're going to get Green Bay, Minnesota, and Washington are going to be your NFC West wild cards. That's a tough field. Tough field. I think for Philadelphia, it's really something, isn't it? The Eagles were rolling after that win over Pittsburgh, and they were clearly, I had them as clearly the number 1 team in the NFC. They still might be. But they got to get Hurts right. Jalen Hurts has to be right, and hopefully he comes back. I don't know. I'm not thinking we're going to see him in Week 17 against Dallas. The Eagles still have 1 game to give. So as long as they'll end up with the 2, chances are they get Washington in the first in the wild card round. Not a gimme the way that kid can play extemporaneously. So we'll see. But tough for a rookie quarterback to come to South Philadelphia and win a playoff game, which I suspect might be in that Saturday night window, a very hostile place, South Philadelphia on a Saturday night. So we'll see about that. But the Eagles go from looking like a dominant team to all of a sudden we got some questions. All right, we're going to try this. Let's try this one more time here, Mike Sando. Michael, how about now?
Good. I don't know what it is. I do a lot of these, and they've all worked except for this. So I put on some headphones. We got a microphone. Let's roll with it.
I appreciate your persistence. Thank you very much, Michael. So I won't take up too much of your time. I wanted to first ask you this. That game yesterday, Seattle losing to Minnesota, a tough loss for the Seahawks. What's the mood out there in the Pacific Northwest?
So there's a ton of frustration with the offense and how they're trying to play offense. So if you go back, they fired Pete Carroll in part because for 10 years, the defense had basically gotten 5% worse every year. They were just kind of coming down and down until they were finally bottom 5. So they bring in Mike McDonald, and the defense a little up and down, but right now in the top 10 of league rankings, it's a good defense. Offensively, they may not have their guy as far as the coordinator. They hired Ryan Grubb, who's from the University of Washington, and it seems like he just wants to throw the ball all the time. Right. So they're in a lot. They don't have a very good offensive line. They're in 5-man protections all the time. They're in the shotgun all the time. They don't really have a running identity at all. And I think that's been a frustration for Mike McDonald, for the fans. And so, they're not really playing to their strengths on that offensive side of the ball. They can still do some things. I mean, they have some good weapons. They have some talent at the skill spots, but they don't have any consistency. So it's a game like yesterday.
And 2 strong running backs too, Mike. They got a nice combination of running backs. So better utilization of that. I think it's an excellent idea. The next question, Mike, sticking with the NFC West. I was just extolling and talking about the San Francisco 49ers, how everything basically went wrong for San Francisco this year. What are your thoughts about the Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers? Do you think they're going to lay out that kind of money for Brock Purdy in 2025?
Well, some kind of money. I think they would do some kind of money. They have him for another year if they want him. And so I have felt the end of this year is important to some degree. A lot of the writers who cover the team seem to think it's a no-brainer, and they're just going to re-up with them. But I think you have to take into account somehow the fact that as it's fallen off around him, it's been more hit and miss. So can they get a deal done that's maybe not exactly at the top of the market? I think they can. And this is somebody who came out of not an absolute top program. He hasn't made any money really by league standards. And I think he wants to be there and realizes that it's best for him to be with Shanahan. So could they just get a deal that makes some sense? I would think they can.
All right. Mike Sando, talking with Mike Sando, Hall of Fame elector and a prominent writer on The Athletic. Michael, Sean McVay just keeps winning. He's an amazing coach. And he's kind of a secret, I think, a little bit on the East Coast here. How do you think he does it as far as, say, taking a team that was 1-4, and now he's got them on the cusp of another NFC West title?
I think this specific run is built around adjusting the vision for how they want to play. I think they've become a more physical, run-oriented team. Some of that was just, preservation of Matt Stafford, too. I think what happened is when they got Stafford, he's such a good drop back passer. They probably leaned into that too much. They just wanted to be a drop back pass team. Right. And the Rams at their best, whether they've had Stafford or whether they've had Goff, do run the ball too.
Right.
Now, what changed was their offensive line wasn't as good as it was years ago. I think they've made some steps in getting a couple guys that are bigger, more of maulers. They've changed their run scheme. They're much less of the zone, outside zone stuff. They're more gap and aggressive, take you on type blocking. And they've got kind of a little bit of a physical mentality that they probably were lacking for a couple of years. So I think that's helped them. And then of course, the McVay Stafford combination is a good one.
Yeah. You mentioned that in your Pick Six article about how the Rams have changed their focus. The last team I wanted to ask you about the NFC West, obviously, is Arizona. Michael, 6 years now, Kyler Murray, not one playoff win. Is how much buyer's remorse, if any, do you see for the contract the Cardinals laid out for Kyler Murray?
I think they had the buyer's remorse after doing it for sure, because remember there's questions about his maturity and what he studied and all that. I think they're past that. I think they're far enough into the deal now. I think he has grown up some. I don't think he's necessarily holding them back at this point. So I don't think that's the issue. I think they need to continue to grow the roster around him and then figure out what's an acceptable level to be at. Where should they be right now? I was talking to someone in the league about this yesterday. How does Arizona's owner feel right now? They've kind of got back to where they're respectable. They're not getting rolled every week. They're in it. They're kind of a 500-ish team. Right. What do they have to do to take the next step? Right. I don't think it's necessarily replacing Murray.
All right. I appreciate that. Mike, in your Pick Six column in The Athletic, you spent a good deal of time talking about Sam Darnold and the amazing Minnesota Vikings. I mean, it's just you talked about how they're already, I think it's 6 games over their win number for this year. And how Darnold, you talk about a guy who went from famine to feast. Yeah. How he did it, and the interesting question that you mentioned in the piece, which is, what do the Vikings do about 2025? Just give me your thoughts on that.
I think it's going to have to be determined by how far they go in the playoffs. Like if they were to go to the Super Bowl, I mean, you kind of have to bring them back, right?
Right.
You can't do that to your team and go with a rookie. Right. I think everybody would understand, and you would do something. Is there a world where you bring them back short term? Do you tag them? Yeah. Right. How ready? Their eval on JJ McCarthy is going to be higher than anybody else's because that's the guy they wanted. So they're going to feel really good about him and want to move in that direction. But I think the longer it goes on, and especially if they were to get the number 1 seed, let's say they win the next couple games, beat Green Bay, beat Detroit, win a playoff game, that's really harder to move on from for me. So they did it with Cousins. They weren't that far along in the playoffs, right. but they've sort of known when to move on.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to come down to O'Connell. He's going to be the driver of these decisions. They have a GM, but O'Connell's going to have the juice, in my opinion.
O'Connell looking like a genius now. I mean, he's looking like a genius. I mean, this is a Sam Darnold, top 3 pick. And it just looked like for, I don't know, Michael, what year he's in, but I mean, he's got to be 5 year, I guess a 5-year guy, I think.
Yeah, you come out in 18, something like that.
Yeah. And those first 5-6 years, it was just a wasteland. And now all of a sudden he's throwing balls like that touchdown pass he threw to Jefferson yesterday. It's just amazing. what he's been able to pull off here. And you're right. The Vikings, I guess there's worse problems to have, Mike, huh? Than the one that they're looking at in the offseason.
It's a great problem to have. It really is. I mean, we've seen teams get into this sometimes. I mean, the research that I did was just looking at who had exceeded their Vegas win totals by the most in the last 35 years. And it's the 99 Rams were number one, and these guys are number two. So 99 Rams stumbled into Kurt Warner. Right? People didn't think they were going to be able to do it, and they did. So a career was kind of launched there. I think maybe a career is being launched with Darnold. He's not going to be a Hall of Famer, I don't think, but maybe he's a viable quarterback now.
Yeah, how about that? Michael, last thing I wanted to ask you was about the Detroit Lions. You mentioned in the piece, too, about the Lions and the fact that they have far exceeded the league average for players on injured reserve, including the number that are on right now on injured reserve. Yet the Lions keep winning. Tell me what your prognosis is for them with the kind of pieces that they have lost. Do you still see them as a strong favorite in the NFC?
I say a favorite. I think they can still go to the Super Bowl. I do think it's harder now, and I think defensively they're going to struggle some, and they'll have a harder time controlling games. We saw that against Buffalo. They played a really good offense, and it was hard for them. But everyone has their issues. I mean, Philadelphia is rolling, but Jalen Hurts gets hurt, right? So everyone's going to have their issues. I still like their chances overall. I think they're adaptable. The thing I loved about the game against the Bears was all anyone's talking about is injuries, and it's depressing. When you're that's the message. They're out there doing trick plays.
I know,
drawing up kids' plays in the dirt. I loved that. I feel like they've still got their kind of.
That was an all-timer. That play. That was an all-timer. Right? They actually had the quarterback fake falling down. And I mean, funny.
You can hear him yelling. This is like something you'd come up in a schoolyard. You'd be like, "Hey guys, let's do this." You pretend like you fall down. Make sure your knee doesn't touch, so they don't accidentally whistle you down.
That's true. That is true.
Awesome. So I like them still. I do like them, but I just think they're not as in control of this as they were when they were healthier.
I agree. And I got to tell you, Mike, I think that coach. He's like he's the Harvey Dent of the NFL, because for every genius play he pulls off, like he did yesterday, that fake quarterback stumble, he tries an onside kick with 10 minutes to go against Josh Allen and the Bills, and you just don't know when he's going to do something like that, like he did last year in San Francisco in the NFC title game.
I agree. I mean, I think that there's a fine line there between just living your identity and also being a little bit reckless. But the thing about Dan Campbell is he's willing to live with the results. He's willing to live with the consequences. A lot of people operate out of fear. They don't want to make a mistake. They'd rather lose the game by 4 than have a chance to win, but risk losing by 12. Right? Isn't that kind of the league? That's why these games are so close in the league.
Right.
Because no one wants to lose by more.
Right.
But when you're out of it late in a game, people don't realize late in a game when you're down 10 points, they don't realize how few possessions are left. You're not going to win. Yeah. So sometimes when you take the more chances, you risk losing by 20 and having your owner look at you.
Fair enough. Fair enough is right. So, Michael, if you had to rank, if I forced you to rank the NFC right now, the top 5 in the NFC, I was just talking about while we were getting you on here, the real power is in the 3 teams in the North, the 2 teams in the East. How would you rank 1 to 5 the top teams in the NFC right now?
Yeah, I'm going to still go with Detroit being number 1. I think Philadelphia is probably 2. Let's just put an asterisk there for Jalen Hurts. I assume he's going to be okay.
Yeah.
I will come back with Minnesota, I think 3. Green Bay's got to be
4, I guess.
4, I think.
Yeah.
And who am I missing? That's
the Commanders. Washington.
I might put the Rams in there.
Okay. All right.
Just as the veteran coach, veteran quarterback, team that's got a little bit of an identity. I mean, that might be how I would do it.
The one team we didn't spend a lot of time talking about was Green Bay. Kind of an enigma to me. I just don't know if they got the passing game to get deep into the playoffs. They certainly have the running game.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. I think the one thing they could use in the passing game, I give them a lot of credit for going with those young receivers. I think they need a guy to emerge as the guy. Like 3rd and 7, can we just dial this up and you can't stop it? And I feel
you're absolutely
better
right.
Teams have an AJ Brown. Other teams have a Justin Jefferson. They don't have that.
That's right. You nailed it. What the problem is with Green Bay. So
Puka Nacua, right? 3rd and 7. He's getting the ball. You can't stop him.
Right. You got Amon Ra in Detroit. You're exactly right.
Yeah. So, and I don't trust them in that big spot to have that play.
And you're going to need it. You're right. There's going to be a 3rd and 7 come January. So you're certainly
there
right
is.
about that.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, Mike Sando, I've been telling everybody to the subscription to The Athletic is dirt cheap. I urge everybody to do it, specifically to read this guy. Your columns are always excellent. And congratulations on the Hall of Fame elector position. That's terrific. And where else? Is there anything else that people might want to grab you? Like, for instance, the Mike Sando show. Where do they find it?
Well, we used to do a podcast with Randy Mueller. I don't do that anymore because Randy went to work for the Saints. He's in their front office. So I do one. I do one every Friday with Brian Nemhauser that you can find. I think his handle is Hawk Blogger, so you might find him. Okay. And then you can also find me on X at Sando NFL and especially at The Athletic.
All right, Mike Sando, listen, I appreciate you being so patient, and thanks for taking the time, and I look forward to talking to you again somewhere down the road. And I know it's 3 hours apart, and sometimes the clock is a pain, but I do appreciate it.
I love doing it. It's well worth it. Thanks for having me on, and we'll do it again, hopefully.
All right, Michael, thank you very much,
Mike
Sando. All right, best to you, and Merry Christmas to Mike Sando, and a Merry Christmas to all of you. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch the show. Thanks to Xander Kraus for a yeoman job producing. I threw a lot of stuff at him this week. And thanks again for watching and appreciate it very much. We'll be back Thursday, the 2nd of January, the day after New Year's, back in that one-time Thursday slot to get ready for a Week 18 and a sharper look at where the playoffs stand. So Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah. And we look forward to talking to you next week on This Week in Pro Football. Good night.